Well, hi everyone. I'm John Redland with my review of AEW Dynamite, and this is pretty damn good. Most of the time, AEW Dynamite has been better than weekly NXT. It just hits, some really good highs. It does have some lows. They have some kinks they need to work out, and they have some bullshit they need to cut out, at least in my personal opinion. But yeah, I have really enjoyed Dynamite a lot more, from its beginnings to now. Even with some of the stuff I don't care for, this was pretty damn good. They hyped up Fyter Fest pretty nicely and also hyped up next week's matches. So yeah, let's see what I didn't like, even though you probably can't guess. JR, Tony Schiavone, and Excalibur on commentary for the whole show, and for the first hour, Chris All Lives Matter, Jericho, and of course, you're all soulless if you didn't like the Stadium Stampede match. Chris Jericho does not take criticism very well, apparently. So anyway, JR mentions how Jericho brought the Bat Floyd. Well, he's got to have a last name, so that was pretty funny. And so the first team, Butcher and Blade versus FTR. When the Butcher comes out, Jericho says, "Never trust a man wearing a monocle." I don't know why that made me laugh, but it did. So we have Tully, Arn Anderson, and Jake Roberts, Lance Archer. We have various people watching this match closely because it's a AEW debut of FTR. And I love this. I thought this was great. I love FTR. Former Revival. I really love them. I think they're absolutely great. And this was great. Tag team wrestling. Sure, there might have been a few too many kickouts, but honestly, Butcher and Blade, since, coming back to TV after the whole pandemic, has, reduced, have to reduce, the amount of roster they could have. They've been able to get to some of the shows, and they've kind of had a bit of a rebirth. And them losing to FTR was inevitable, but there was a nice competition here, and this is probably the best they've looked since their debut. I mean, when the Butcher and the Blade and the Bunny, like, we were supposed to know who the fuck they were. So this was actually pretty good. I did enjoy the fact that FTR got in a lot of offense. Weird to see them work as baby faces, but it's natural that they would be baby faces to start out. They did hit a nice superplex into a splash combo just for two. The Goodnight Express is a former Shatter Machine, and then they hit the Mindbreaker, a tribute to Tully and Arn, the off the ropes pile driver. 1, 2, 3, there we go. Some really good shit. I really enjoyed that. And then Schiavone interviews FTR. Here's the Bucks. The Bucks, we have been carrying tag team wrestling for the last decade and a half. That's funny. Tell me another fucking one. When you can have more than one good to great match a year, one match that isn't a whole bunch of flippy shit and a whole bunch of bullshit, then let me know. I know there are Bucks fans that are probably going to get really upset at what I just said there. You guys can like the Young Bucks. I'm not saying the Young Bucks don't have an audience and don't have a lot of fans. They do. I have liked some of the matches that they have put on. I enjoyed one of the matches they had with the Lucha Bros. Didn't enjoy, every single one of them. But I did enjoy the one that they had against Omega and Page at Revolution. That was really good. I like the one they had, really like the one they had against the Golden Lovers, Omega and Ibushi at Strong Style Evolved for New Japan. They have, when they aren't just doing the flippy shit and they want to do some good storytelling, they actually can do it. The problem is, a lot of it is just video game wrestling, and I'm not the audience for that. I have readily admitted it. But I just kind of laughed when, the Bucks said that. Yes, you've been a whale in a teardrop or whatever. You've been basically a big fish in a small pond is what you've basically been, Bucks. Can the Bucks and FTR have a good match? Yes. They probably could have a good series of matches. This has to lead to the tag team titles and has to lead to FTR having them and maybe the Bucks beating them, because I think that's the inevitable conclusion. I just laughed at what the Bucks said. But that being said, this is probably going to be a pretty good feud. Don't rush it. Don't rush it. Keep it going for a bit. Have them do these little teases and stuff like that, because there is money here. And if they actually listen, FTR will get them to a really goddamn good classic match. So, Butcher and Blade, Havoc and Kip attack, and then Omega and Page come in. Omega, arriving, Page then coming up in the loudest shirt possible, but, we get this big old schmoz and everything. And it's nice little teases for the eventual FTR Bucks match. We then get Dasha with the Natural Nightmares and Allie, and they get a tag title shot next week. QT and Dustin, that is. Of course, Brandy is going to get on the show one way or another. Penelope Ford with Kip Sabian, and teaming with Nyla Rose versus Hikaru Shida and Chris Statlander. And, what was it? Jericho said, she looks so alien-like. Get Pineapple Pete, I hate that guy. JR should not be commentating on the women's matches. JR just does not give a shit about the women's division. Because he's talking about you're the size of the women. Oh, they're big women, this kind of stuff. JR, if you don't care, just cut your mic and just don't say anything. I know they're paying him a goddamn fortune, but he's not very good at commentating on the women's division. And then we have Britt Baker at one point, like, in the crowd, and Jericho just says, "Listen to your doctor, Excalibur." There were some really good lines here. Holy Sheeta chants, an axe kick for 2. The double knee drop that Nyla did to both Statlander and Hikaru Shida was beautiful. That was great shit. And then the Falcon Arrow for 2. Kip tries to interfere. Statlander dives on him. And then title to the head, Fisherman Suplex, pin Shida. Penelope Ford gets a victory over the AEW Women's Champion. So naturally, we're going to get that match at Fyter Fest. I'd be all for that. Penelope Ford will not win, but she has definitely improved in the last couple years, and even just in the last few months in AEW alone. So I'm excited to see what they do there. And then we have Darby and Tony Hawk. Okay, cool. He's a big skateboarder. Tony Hawk as well. I mean, obviously, but Darby wishes to leave this mortal realm a lot sooner. We then get a Britt video package about Swole and, the injury that Britt is dealing with. And this is pretty fun. I enjoyed it. Britt at times, her heel run is not necessarily working for me. That being said, this actually has worked, and this was pretty damn good shit. This is one of the weeks where it actually worked. Then we get Santana, Ortiz, and Hager versus the Best Friends and Orange Cassidy. Cassidy got laid out in the beginning. We get dives. I don't like the Orange Cassidy gimmick. Don't. I know some people do. Fine. You guys can like it. And I'm not even going to rail on it as much here because I've already done that in plenty of videos. But Trent, he doesn't even have a last name. He lost it in a poker game or something. Another good line by Jericho. This did go a bit long. And after a big old schmoz and everything and going a bit too long, we get the trap pin from Orange Cassidy and pins Ortiz 1, 2, 3. Then the Inner Circle lays them out. And then we get blood oranges in a bag. And then Jericho whiffs it like he whiffs, his Fozzy songs and his live performances and misses Orange Cassidy. And Orange Cassidy has to sell the bag to the face. Sports-based wrestling. If this was on WWE TV, I would kill it. I'm going to kill it here. This was stupid. I mean, I get it. It's oranges. It's props. Whatever. You can have some entertainment. I didn't find this to be very entertaining. But it was what it was. Cassidy was bleeding at one point. I don't know if he bladed or if he did get legit cut. Hopefully he actually is okay. But yeah, this match didn't necessarily do it for me because of the obvious fact I only like one of the guys, and that's Trent. So we then get MJF interrupting an interview with Billy. Shivani was trying not to crack during this whole damn thing. Billy gets upset. Billy, don't call me gun, gets upset at MJF. And then Wardlow gets in his face. So maybe we'll get that match at some point. Maybe we get the Guns versus MJF and Wardlow at some point. Recaps Colt being offered to join the Gimp Order. Please, for the love of fucking God, drop the Gimp Order. Just drop this gimmick. Drop this bullshit. So, Sammy Guevara versus Colt Boom Boom Cabana. We get some dives from Sammy. We get a pace. It was very, very nice. Very well done. Colt just seemed to step off because he just wasn't able to keep up with the younger guy. Not that Colt's old, but that's the story they were telling here. And eventually, Sammy hits the variation of the Feast Your Eyes 1, 2, 3. And then the Gimp Order. Uno and Grayson are back, by the way. Good for them. Good the travel restrictions got eased back. Because, now they can go earn a living. I don't like the gimmick, but I want them to be able to earn a living. I hate the gimmick, but good on them. They're committed to it. They're just committed to bullshit. But at least, they're back. And Lee offers a hand to Colt and helps him up and everything because he's going to help him. He's going to help him turn around his winning ways. Brody Lee, the man that was basically jobbing on WWE TV for a number of years, is going to help Colt Boom Boom Cabana, who has had a lot of success in wrestling, get back on the winning track when he couldn't even beat Jon Moxley, and he shouldn't have beat Jon Moxley. So then we get Matt confronting Sammy. I respect you, and then a matter of fact wordplay. Do you get it? And all that. Then he does personality shifts. Good. I'm over the broken stuff. So we got Joey Janela at a bar. His best moments in wrestling may be behind him. This is news to me. I did not know that Joey Janela had any best moments in his career. I kid. He has fans. I just think he's shit. And Sonny Kiss shows up when Joey Janela is drunk on the street, that is, and says, what are you doing here? They're trying to recreate the Jimmy Valiant Street People thing, in like at least the flavor of it. It is what it is. Sonny Kiss got on Dynamite. Hopefully they're going to feature him more in, matches And him and Janela have teamed up on Dark. It is what I don't care for Janela, but you know what? If it leads to more tag teams and maybe you can get something out of this, fine. But whatever. So we then get Dasha talking to Colt. Colt then goes into the Dark Order locker room. Look, just fucking drop this stupid gimmick, please. Fuck. So MJF versus Billy next week. Omega and Page versus the Natural Nightmares for the Tag Team Championship next week. We find out it's going to be Cody versus Jake Hager at Fyter Fest, but we're also going to get a TNT Championship match next week. And then we get the Best Friends versus La Sex Gods, Jericho and Sammy Guevara. And Best Friends are putting their tag title shot at Fyter Fest on the line, which means we could get Jericho and Sammy Guevara getting that title shot, which might not be a bad idea. And then we get the Superbad Death Squad, Havoc, and Kip Sabian, obviously, with Penelope Ford, versus the Bucks. That's all next week. Jon Moxley talks about Taz and Cage. Here's a little Oompa Loompa Taz. And look, I just don't buy Taz as the badass. I just don't. I just don't buy him as badass at this point. I'm not saying that the guy isn't still tough. I don't want him to get physically involved because he's got a really bad neck and he's older. But he's getting in Moxley's face. You better get your head in the game, this kind of stuff. This guy, and then Mr. Wellness Violation shows up, Brian Cage, and attacks Moxley and throws him, throws him into a bunch of stuff. They do a window spot, and then he throws him into the back window of the car. So cool, whatever. Gimmicked window, I hope, because that looked pretty vicious. All right, cool, whatever. I still don't care about this, and Moxley better retain, because Cage has no business being the AEW champion right now. Mark Quinn versus Cody, TNT Championship. This is all about Quinn's ankle being, hurt and everything. He was selling a lot, hitting some dives. Cody kept targeting it and eventually got the ankle lock and got the victory, a trap ankle lock. Very, very nice stuff. This wasn't a bad match, but there wasn't much of note. And then he shook his hand and, okay, cool, we're having that. Where we're having, this handshake thing, which I like. I like the idea. And then when a heel takes over, maybe MJF, then we can get to where, here's I beat you, now kiss the ring. And he'll also hit him with the championship. He'll probably do that. And then we get a big old schmoz at the end. Hager looks like he's going to challenge Cody. And then it turns out they're going to have that match at Fyter Fest. You get a big old schmoz with Private Party, Matt Hardy, Private Hardy, if you will, the Inner Circle, and everything and all that stuff. And then Cody says, oh, Hager, let's have that match, Fyter Fest. Cool, Cody's the matchmaker now. Look, not a bad show. Actually, I really enjoyed quite a bit of it. There were a couple things I didn't like, the Dark Order stuff, but it is what it is. So anyway, agree, disagree, what I said. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter handle in the description. I'm John Redland. I'll see you soon.